Hi people tuning in. This is our live Q&A series that we run on Thursday nights. Today's guest is Yussef Rafik and he's here, which is great. I don't have to time fill. Just waiting for the internet to load and he'll be joining us in just a second.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. One of the networks is completely down tonight, so I'm on the other one, and luckily the other one is working.
Okay. Cross it state.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Okay, so for our followers, do you want to just introduce yourself and who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Yussef. I am a zoologist and wildlife presenter. I've worked on things like BBC Earth Kids. I do a lot on that channel. I've worked with organisations like the Wildlife Trust, BBC Bite Size. But yeah, that's me really.
Awesome. Okay, and then for your followers who might be tuning in, don't know who Love the Oceans is. So we are a marine conservation organisation working in Mozambique. I'm the founder, that's why I'm doing this. And we are working to establish a marine protected area in Jangamo district in Mozambique. So we do a lot of different areas of research, fisheries research, coral reefs, ocean trash, marine megafauna, and humpback whales, if I didn't say that already. We have five and I always forget one. And then we do two community outreach projects as well, teaching swimming and basic marine resource management. That's what we would normally be doing, but because of COVID, that's all kind of ground to a halt. So we decided that we would launch these Q&A series to introduce interesting guests to our audience, like you. So yeah, that's us in a nutshell. So people tuning in, you can submit questions in the comments below there. So feel free to submit questions and we'll try and get to them throughout as well. If you're happy, Yussef, shall we just jump straight in with the questions
Yeah,
that we've been submitted?
ready when you are.
Awesome. Cool. So we got sent loads, which is great. So we'll do our best to get through them all. I can't promise everything. But first question, easy one. How did you get into your line of work and what path did you take to get there?
Okay, that is an easy one, but it's quite there's a lot to explain. So I might take a while. First, I went to uni, got a degree in zoology. So I went to the University of Reading. Once I graduated there, I worked in a zoo for a little while. And one of my roles in the zoo was presenting the live talks and the animal handling sessions, the educational talks. And that was one of my favourite jobs there. So when I left, I was looking for kind of presenting work. And I did a few auditions and made it through to CBBC were doing this thing where they're looking for new presenters. So I auditioned with them, made it through to the final round and got invited to their studio up in Manchester. Where I sort of presented in the actual studio. Sadly, the project didn't go ahead, so I didn't get the job. But it was it was a good experience, and it made me realise that at that point I wanted to be a presenter. So from that point, I basically just went at social media pretty hard, made lots of content, and then eventually I get through Instagram really. I don't know if you'd call it scouted or whatever, but they found me basically through Instagram. Offered me the BBC Earth job. And at this point in time as well, I was also making a show reel and I got an agent through that. And then from that point onwards, I guess I've got to the point where I am now. But yeah, that's it explained
That's
quite
pretty awesome.
quickly. Yeah, I don't know if I should do that, but they found me through Instagram. No, no, it was a different job, and different people entirely actually. So yeah.
Is about because obviously you present Bugface, which involves a lot of bugs. So were bugs? Wait, what got you interested in zoology? Were bugs like something that you're obsessed with from a young age, or is that just like kind of happened that you kind of just transitioned into that because that was the presenting job?
Yeah, a bit of both. I mean, bugs have certainly, I've always been obsessed with bugs, but it wasn't ever like it was bugs in particular that I was obsessed with. I was just obsessed with all animals. So I remember being younger and like I was that weird kid in the playground, like digging for worms at school. Um, but it was never just bugs. So I remember one of the sort of groups of animals that I got into first was actually reptiles. Um, so I remember at school, I don't know if you remember, but we used to have those library vans that came around in primary school. And I got a book out of the library that I think it was like an encyclopedia of animals or something, but it had this day gecko on the front, like this beautiful green gecko, and I was just obsessed with it. So I researched it and read up about reptiles, and eventually, after many years of reading up about them, I got my first gecko. So I started keeping reptiles. And then and while that was all going on, I was also interested in the other animals and bugs. So in answer to your question, yes, I've always been obsessed with bugs, but not specifically just bugs. I guess the bug thing has come up through, for some reason I can't seem to escape them. Like lots of my job offers are bugs, but I'm not complaining.
Nice. Was that why you chose zoology then at university?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I went through a phase where I wanted to be a vet for quite a while, but to be honest, that was mainly because I didn't know about zoology. And then once I found out about zoology and the kind of things involved, I realised that that was for me. So yeah, I went and did zoology.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that zoology, like or marine zoology or anything kind of that way related,
Yeah,
is a thing.
yeah,
Um, Talking to a family friend who's like 14 and she's thinking about um, universities and courses and stuff like that. And I was talking to her about zoology and she didn't know that it was a thing. And I was like, yeah,
no,
this is a really interesting, like it was pretty much exactly what she wanted to do. And I was like, research this
oh,
because it's gonna fit what you want.
yeah, it's a cool degree.
Um,
I didn't know about it until I started looking into degrees. So yeah, I'd definitely recommend doing it though. It's very interesting.
yeah. Um, okay, cool. Then the next question was, do you prefer, because you present Bugface, but you narrate Wild Bites, which one do you prefer?
Ooh, that's a hard question. That's hard to pick. I like them both for very different reasons. So, Wild Bites, I loved doing Wild Bites because it was ever since I was little watching like David Attenborough documentaries. I always thought it'd be really cool to voice your own wildlife documentary, and I'm sure most people do. Most people don't really get the opportunity to do that, so I feel incredibly lucky that I got the chance to do that. Um, I'm not saying it was on the scale of David Attenborough, but it was still a cool thing to do. Uh, Behind the scenes, it wasn't quite as exciting. It was all done throughout lockdown, so it basically just involved me. It was all done from home because it was through lockdown, obviously. And because my face wasn't on the screen, they just needed my voice. So it involved me sitting under a table covered in loads of blankets. And at that point, it was one of the hottest days of the year. So, so behind the scenes, it wasn't. But then on Bugface, that was a completely different experience. That was all done pre-lockdown, so we were allowed to mix, and that was done in the studio with like a whole crew of people, and I was like integrating with all these like is integrating the right word? Interacting with all these really cool all over the world, getting to hang out with like famous people, which was cool. I had someone doing my hair and makeup, so I was on a bit of a power trip. So,
Yeah.
but I tried into my head. But so it's a very difficult question. I think maybe Bugface topped it for me ever so slightly
Yeah.
for experience filming it. Um, but it's hard. Yeah, it's not an easy one. So,
Yeah, I saw you had Dick and Dom on Bugface. Such a throwback. I saw them and I was like, oh my God, I remember watching that when I was a kid.
yeah, yeah,
But they're
no, that
like they're in the bungalow show my mum used to hate and I used to watch it and that like the theme tune at the beginning, I think it's forever like burnt into my mum's brain.
Oh,
and
really?
she'd just like not come into the room while that was on. Yeah, I think we just watched
But
too much of it as kids.
yeah, yeah, me too, actually. But I thought so. Out of all the guests we've had on Bugface, Dom has been the only person to not have the bug on his face. Like, just refused, like freaked out, and just wouldn't have it on his face, which surprised me considering like the stuff they had on their face in the bungalow. But he wouldn't have a
Yeah.
cricket. Yeah,
Wow. Mm, there you go.
yeah.
Learn a new thing every day.
He was great, but he didn't want the cricket on his face.
Spoil sport. um, okay, cool. Next question. So someone said, have you ever encountered any issues as a man of color working in zoology or science communication?
Ooh, that's another great question. I I don't think I have, and I realise that makes me quite lucky. I'm also aware I'm quite lucky that I'm pursuing this career at this point in time, at this point in history, because I'm fully aware that if I had tried to do this, 10, 20 years ago, I probably wouldn't have the same opportunities as I do now. Um, there's definitely improvements been made. I can only speak for the field I work in. I know there's issues around the world with every field, but in my personal experience, I've really, um, not really faced it. And I think the trouble with wanting to see diversity on screen, I fully agree with it, but I think it should be more a thing of creating equal opportunities. So not just in the presenting field, but take for example like conservation, wildlife conservation in general. Usually, people from more well-off backgrounds can afford to spend thousands of pounds and go to exotic locations and save the turtles or whatever, which is great. No one like they deserve recognition for that. No one's taking that away from them. But I would like to see in the future at least something put into place where people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds get the same opportunities. And I think, in my opinion at least, that will create a more sustainable and longer lasting way of putting a diverse, creating diversity on screen, rather because we've got to be careful it doesn't turn into like tokenism where we're just having, black people, brown people, people from different ethnic groups on TV just for the sake of it. They should be there on merit, and of course, and I think that's a good way of doing that for the future at least. But that was a long-winded way of answering that question. So hopefully I answered it with
No, it's
injustice, but
really interesting.
that's my opinion at least. But yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully,
the conservation world is notoriously very white, and it's something that we're trying to work to diversify, at least our little section of it. But I think it's like representation is also really important because kids growing up, it kind of all links together, doesn't it? Like kids growing up need to see people that look like them on screen, so that they, can envisage themselves in that position and then go into that career and everything like that. So I think it's important to have people on screen, diverse people on screen, but also I agree it needs to go like further into it as well. And I think
yeah,
going into equal opportunities from a young age as well, because the problem's systemic, right? So it needs to be tackled from young as well, so that people have equal opportunities growing up. Because yeah, conservation especially. Obviously, I don't know your industry, but like my industry, conservation is very like white privilege. So
yeah,
it's definitely something that needs to be worked on. Um,
yeah.
100% agree.
Hopefully we can
Yeah,
change
I was
that.
actually reading. Yeah, yeah, fingers crossed. I was actually reading a study the other day that was actually, it was a book. It was Caroline Perez's Invisible Woman, which is one of my favorite books, and it's about data bias in the modern world, from like a patriarchal point of view, like sexism and stuff. And it said, I can't remember the exact stats, and I really wish I could right now, but it was like for women and men. So women can envisage them, can use men as role models and can envisage themselves in the position of whatever that man is doing, but vice versa isn't the same. And studies like that are really interesting because representation is so important so that people can envisage, themselves in different job roles. So yeah, sorry, that was sidetracked. That's a really great book, but
No,
um,
it's, yeah, it's definitely a biggie.
yeah, 100%. Okay, so favorite part of your job?
Ooh, okay. Favorite. There's so many good bits. I think one thing I really enjoy is changing people's perceptions of animals. So I guess maybe that's why I like things like bugs and reptiles so much, which in general aren't viewed by society in a positive light. Normally they're quite viewed in a negative light. So myths like snakes being slimy, spiders being creepy. I mean, spiders are a bit creepy, but they're creepy in a cool way. I like on animals, and I guess that's one of the things I loved about Bugface. Like probably 90% of the time, like the guests would come in and they would be pretty terrified of the bug. They wouldn't. There was no way they'd want it on their face. But within that half an hour period, like by the end of the filming, when like the cameras went off, like they would come up to me and be like, "Can I hold it again? Can I like shake his little hand?" And they'd have developed this interest in such a short amount of time. So for me, I guess that just shows that exposure can reduce those fears. I guess because fear is created out, or hatred is created out of fear. So when you get rid of that fear, all of a sudden they don't hate those animals. So I really enjoy changing people's perceptions on animals, which luckily is something on Bugface at least where I was mixing with other people. On Wild Bites it was just me, so I couldn't really do this. But I was able to do that, so I really enjoyed that aspect to it.
Yeah, I definitely think I agree completely. I've I've adopted a chameleon here in the last like few days. We were driving into town and this little chameleon ran across the road, so I jumped out just to actually have a look because chameleons are like my favorite reptile by a long shot. I think they're so cool. And
Yeah.
when I was looking at her, she had like a really messed up eye and her mouth looked really weird. So I picked her up
Okay.
and messaged some friends, and basically she's her one of her eyes is completely like non-functional. She can't move it,
Oh
and
wow.
her mouth, she's got like mouth rot in her mouth, so she wouldn't survive in the wild. So I thought I'd give her a home. And I was talking to some of my friends here, and chameleons are seen as bad luck here, like really, really bad luck. As in, like, so I was in town well, on my way into town, so I had to go into town, do some errands, and then come out of town. And I just had her on my hand because I didn't want to put her down because obviously I'd lose her immediately. And while I was in the car with Chameleon, one of my friends was meant to be coming to the back of the car to load some stuff up, and he wouldn't even come near the car while the
Wow.
chameleon was in it. Like it's like a cute superstition. And unfortunately, that means that chameleons are often killed here.
Oh,
So yeah, so it actually can be detrimental. Like the thought process around bugs and reptiles and stuff can be detrimental to the actual animal as well. But then another friend was over here the other day, and we were talking about like this superstitious thing around chameleons. And he said that because I was like, "What actually is it based off? Like, where did this come from originally? Do you know?" And he was like, "Oh, it's because their bites never heal, and I assume
okay.
that that's to do with like not having access to antibiotics and
Yeah.
therefore not being able to get treatment, and also them changing color." So I was like, "Oh, do you know that them changing color is to do with like heat and behavior and
Yeah.
mood and stuff?" And he was like, "No," and I was like, "Well, look right now," because she was brown because the sun was out. And then I got photos of her the day before when she was green. And I was like, "Look, she's green here," and then she's like mottled here. And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's chromatophores in her skin." And he was literally like, and then he wasn't scared anymore. Like immediately once it had kind of been explained, and he got that it wasn't just like witchcraft or anything like that. Um, so yeah, I think
Yeah.
breaking those stereotypes is so important, so important.
Definitely. It's how quickly perception changed just through education, I guess. And we've got to be careful not to say those people. talking nonsense. There's no such thing as witchcraft or anything, because that's their traditions, right? But there's also that, like I said, there's that aspect of um, showing them the reality, like you were saying, like showing them why it really changes color and things like that. And then all of a sudden, like you say, that fear gets turned into enthusiasm and wanting to learn more. So yeah,
Yeah,
I like that aspect too.
yeah, definitely. I love the like being able to drop science bombs and be like, "This is science." When it's like you, when I with our volunteers on like on the boat when I'm talking about the whales and their behavior, and they're like, "Why did they do this?" And I'm like, "X, Y, Z," and they're like, "Whoa!" You see their little brains explode. Yeah, it's like one of my favorite things to do.
I just about the chameleon. Why is it called Karen?
Um, so So, during the pandemic, everyone's been like Karen when people are doing like dumb stuff, and everyone's being called a Karen when they do dumb stuff. And I always, whenever I have a pet or whatever, I name it like alliteration. So it's got to be like the same start
Okay.
as, even though Karen's is spelled with a K, community is spelled with a C, but it's still like when you say it. And I thought I'd just redeem the name, bring it back.
Thought she asks for the manager a lot or something.
Well, she is fussy. Butterflies are her favorite food. But
Suitable name.
um, huh?
Suitable name.
Yeah, yeah, bring it back.
Yeah.
Okay, just to balance out the favorite part of your job, what's your least favorite part of your job?
Least it's hard. I mean, that's a hard one as well. I get it's not maybe it's not so much the job itself, but it's so presenting is a freelance job, so it's okay while you've got work. But I think for me, one of the worst parts is there's always this fear of this will be your last presenting job. You're not going to get another one. And I think that's probably a fear that most presenters have, and hopefully it doesn't usually happen. But there's that element of um, it's not exactly always a stable career. You need to keep getting work, obviously. So when you're filming a show, it's great because you can say to people you're working and you're working on a show, but there will be times in between where you're not working on the show, and then it can be hard to explain why. Uh, Obviously, as if you're a presenter, you're not working 9 to 5 every day of the week throughout the year. So there's always that fear that you're not going to get another job, but you just got to hope it doesn't happen. Yeah, that's the worst bit. But the job itself,
I
I
feel
like.
like, yeah, and I feel like being a BBC presenter like sets you up pretty good for other jobs, right?
Hope can't get too complacent. But yeah, hope.
Yeah. Okay. And okay, we got some questions around Bugface. Some Bugface fans sent in some questions. So do you get to choose which bugs that you put on people's faces?
Um, I get. I don't know how much say I get in it. We had a few discussions about what kind of bugs we can use, and I made some suggestions. Some got used, some didn't. I really I really wanted to use something like a tarantula or a scorpion, but that suggestion got shot down pretty quickly. We're not allowed to use anything too dangerous, obviously. There was a fear. So a few of the had on are have been strictly come dancing dancers. And when I suggested the scorpion, it was going to be on one of their faces, and this was at the time while we were filming this, they were also filming Strictly, so they was worried that the scorpion would like sting them, and they'd turn up on like Saturday Night TV with a massive face, and it'd be our fault. But so so I get a little bit of say, but yeah, I think the producers have most say, to be honest.
Don't can't you like removing stings? Is that a thing? Like,
I don't think we could really get away with doing that. And we could use. I mean, my suggestion, it wasn't going to be like use like a deadly scorpion. It was going to be like an emperor scorpion or something. So it's the equivalent roughly of a bee sting if you get stung. But
oh,
obviously,
that's not too
which
bad.
not too bad, but they weren't very keen on the idea. And the trouble with tarantulas, obviously, is the hairs. They can flick hairs. So yeah, not many of my suggestions
Oh, I
are
didn't
used.
know that.
Yeah, yeah, that's their defense tactic. They flick hairs that irritate your eyes, and your skin.
Wow, that's cool. I did not know that.
It's
Well,
cool.
I got stung by a scorpion a few months ago, and that wasn't very pleasant. So, to be fair, I think I agree with your producers saying no to the scorpion.
Had you got stung by a scorpion? It was
Yeah, it wasn't pleasant. What was that? Sorry?
like a proper deadly one, though, right? It wasn't like a weak
It
scorpion.
wasn't deadly, but it
Uh,
was. So I was really lucky, like it didn't inject its sting. So it was painful when I got pins and needles up my leg, but the doctor said that if it had injected its sting, she probably would have had to take off my foot. So because it stung me on the foot.
Pretty bad.
So yeah, it wasn't a good one,
No,
that's for sure.
was that in your shoe or
Now,
something?
no, I used to walk barefoot everywhere. So I spend like 8 months of the year in Mozambique, and I used to just literally take my shoes off on arrival and not put them back on unless I had to go into town to like do something. And I got out of bed at like 1 a.m. To pee, and it was like literally on the floor, and I just stepped straight on it, and I didn't even look. I actually thought it was because we have like fire ants here, which are pretty painful bites anyways. So I thought it was like an
Yeah.
ant or something because it was dark and it was really small. And then I was like, I'll just check because this is Africa. And so I actually just emptied this can of bug spray on it before I pulled it out and then like sweeped it out because it had kind of run under my bed. And yeah, then it was a scorpion, and then I was like pretty chilled about it. Like I think I'm way too chilled about things like this, and I was talking to one of our friends on the phone, just saying like, "Oh, I think I'm gonna go nap.
Yeah.
I think it'll be fine. I'll just set an alarm like every 2 hours, and if I wake up and it's really sore, then I'll go to hospital." And then one of my friends turned up and was like, "Get in the car, like we're going to the hospital right now." And then I realized how serious it was. But before that, I was like pretty chilled out.
Probably a good thing you didn't panic, but yeah, maybe you should have panicked a little bit more.
Yeah, I've learned that here my reaction to everything is just very like mellow, whereas a lot of the
Okay.
time I think I should probably react more to things. I
Probably
feel
best
that
a little.
it's better to be mellow than like super panicky.
Yeah.
So
I mean, still got your foot. It's all right.
yeah, exactly, it worked out. Um, okay, what happens to the bugs when they're not on the show?
We have a professional bug wrangler that provides all the bugs. That's actually his job. So he's like, I think he's
That's so
biggest.
cool.
Yeah, I think the biggest insect breeder in the UK. So he breeds them and sells them as well as providing them for like film and TV. So yeah, we just tell him what kind of bugs we want. He tells us what's available at certain times of year, because some points of the year some bugs won't be available. So we sort of work together in that regard. And then yeah, when we're done, he just takes them all home. He has a little suitcase full of bugs he brings.
That's so cool. That is imagine that, like, imagine being at a party and that being like, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a
Bug,
bug wrangler. Like, I keep bugs.
pretty
God,
cool.
that'd
I think
be
all that be an accountant. So I think we're an accountant. So it's a pretty change in the career direction, but sounds like a great.
yeah, yeah. That's a big change. um, okay, and then the next question was, what's your favorite bug to put on people's faces?
Um, it sounds really mean, but I like the ones that look scary. So we have one of my favorites has been Vinegaroon, which I don't know if you know what that is, but it belongs to the arachnid family. It's kind of like a scorpion without the sting, but instead of a sting, it's got this like long, thin um, tail, I guess you'd call it. So it's not really a tail, but it looks like a tail. And they can actually spray super concentrated acetic acid, which is the same as the acid in vinegar. So that's how they get the name Vinegaroon. So for that, that was one of the only bugs we made the guests wear goggles, because obviously if that gets in the eyes, it's like not a good thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoyed that one. I think for like the mean aspect of like putting that on his face. But we've also had things like tailless whip scorpions, which are famous from Harry Potter. That scene where they make it bigger. So they're a creepy looking
Oh
bug.
yeah.
What else have we had with that? There's still some
Is that the
episodes
one
to
where
come.
they did a? Is that the one where they did the Cruciatus
Yeah,
guys?
yeah.
I'm not a massive Harry Potter fan, I promise. But
Yeah, so that. But then I also like the we've had a lot of praying mantises, but they all look completely different. Like the praying mantis family group is just so varied. So we've had Indian grass mantises, which just look like they're pretty big and they just look like blades of grass. And then we've had orchid mantises, which look like petals and really pretty, and they're quite small. So we've had a massive range of bugs, and yeah, I'm sort of in my element with bugs, so I've loved them all, obviously. Um, there's there's still some episodes to come out, so I'm careful what to say. There's a one in particular that's the episode isn't out yet, so I probably shouldn't ruin it. But that was a cool bug as well. We've had a lot of millipedes. I didn't realise were pretty
oh
varied as
no,
well.
I can't. Millipedes, actually no. Millipedes are fine. Centipedes, no.
Oh yeah, no, we wouldn't use centipedes. They're they're a lot. Millipedes tend to be fairly docile. Having said that, though, they were one of the only bugs that actually bit me. So African flat millipedes bit me. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
a
no.
camel.
The cent. Oh no, camel spiders, no, not a chance. No, no, no. We have them here, and they are far from my favorite bug. They're like possibly my least favorite three bugs in the world.
I quite like them, but yeah, we had to use. I
They
mean,
move so fast.
yeah, this is I probably shouldn't have said camel spiders because that's in an episode that hasn't come out yet. I've ruined that. But we had to use juveniles because we wasn't allowed to use the big ones because they could do more damage obviously than a juvenile. But even the juvenile bites were quite painful.
Yeah, yeah. We had yeah, we got quite a few of them here, and they're not no, no, no. I can't deal with them. But we do have we have praying mantis here, and they're really cool. Do praying mantises eat cockroaches?
Yeah, yeah. I think it depends on the size of the mantis and the size of the cockroach, but they would do.
Yeah, because I there was a praying mantis a couple of years ago. There was one living on my mosquito net, and I just let him be because I really wanted him to eat the cockroaches. But the problem was that he was only like this big, and the cockroaches were like this big. Yeah,
That might,
cockroaches are massive here.
yeah, yeah. Do you have because obviously
I
that mad cockroaches are one of the biggest, right? So are they? I guess they're just in Madagascar. Like, do you have the equivalent?
I'm pretty sure we have them here, or definitely the equivalent. Like that cockroach that, in particular, that I was talking about. The reason I wanted that praying mantis to stick around was because I noticed him when I was going to the loo. I swear everything happens at night when I'm going to the loo here with bugs. Um, the praying mantis was on my mozzie net, and I just left him be, and then I went to the toilet, and for some reason I had like a sixth sense. I had my head torch on, and I just did a sweep of the room, which you should never do in the dark
No.
in Africa. And I did it, and there was just this massive cockroach in the middle of the kitchen. And it was like a big black one, and it wouldn't fit under a pint glass. Like I tried to trap
Really?
it under a pint glass, and it wouldn't fit. Like I chopped it a little bit because it wouldn't fit under the pint glass. It was
Oh
horrific. Like
wow.
I thought about catching some cockroaches to feed Karen, and honestly, I think they'd
Yeah,
take it down. Like they're
really.
they're massive.
You'll have to start breeding them and get the babies.
No, cockroaches are my least favorite, closely followed by
Really?
camel spiders, but cockroaches are a long shot my least favorite. I'm not a big fan of locusts either, but locusts, that's very personal. That's because I was asleep again here, and a locust fell on my face
Oh,
and woke me up, and now I've got like a fear of
little
locusts
fear.
falling on my face.
Maybe you need
Yeah.
some exposure. We'll get some locusts for you.
No. Or I'll feed into Karen if you do though. So
Yeah, surely. Yeah. But yeah,
yeah,
I can't actually remember getting lost in bug chat, but yeah, bugs are cool.
bugs are very cool. Um, yeah, that one was about your favorite bugs to put on people's
Uh,
faces. Um, yeah, which you answered, so that's cool. Um, then I had a question for feeding Karen. Where do crickets go when it's like overcast? Because on sunny days I can walk around the gardens here and I'll be able to get like 15 crickets in 20 minutes. And today it was overcast, and yesterday. And I've spent like over an hour looking for crickets and trapping them, and I get like maximum six in an hour. It's so
really,
frustrating.
they're still around. They're just
Yeah.
really good at hiding. If there's long grass, they'll be in the grass or tree bark or things. But yeah, you just need to look harder. I
I
don't think they
swear in
like.
the sunlight, like,
Yeah, well, they're ectotherms like reptiles, so they can't regulate their own body temperature, so they have to come out in sunlight to warm up. So that's why you'd see a lot in the sun. And then in the winter, they all die off, so you won't find any in the winter.
it's
But
winter now.
yeah,
That's not good. I need food for Karen.
that'll be why. Yeah, I think
Damn it.
I think it's weird. I think there are some exceptions. So some species you'll probably find some species throughout the winter. Hopefully for Karen, but most of them will just lay eggs, and then the eggs will lay dormant until the next year to hatch, and then they'll die off. But you can
Yeah, I
probably
managed to find two. I found two massive ones today, so I figured that like counted as like two bugs each for her, like
yeah.
the number of bugs she's meant to eat. Like they were like it's probably that big per cricket.
Okay.
Um, and I don't know if, to be honest, I'm not sure the difference between like crickets and grasshoppers. It could be a grasshopper. I tracked it. It like jumped and flew like 10 meters, like a long way. And like when it opened its little arms, it had like colourful bits joining it,
Uh,
like those squirrel
Does
suits, like when you jump off a mountaintop and you have a squirrel suit on. It was like
it have?
that.
Or normally that's the way of
Pardon?
telling. If they have, normally you can tell the difference between a grasshopper and cricket from their antennae. So crickets will have really long antennae. Grasshoppers will be quite short.
Okay, it was a cricket then. It has really long ones. Um, but then I think that the things I've been calling crickets are grasshoppers then. The like smaller, the smaller ones I've been catching, I think, are grasshoppers.
Yeah. Okay. How big is Karen?
Um, Karen's, her body's like the length of my finger because she'll just like chill.
Okay.
So her body's probably like that length. I think I measured her yesterday, and with the tail, she's about 20 centimeters.
All right. Okay.
There's like not a lot of information online on Mozambique flat-necked chameleons, which is what she is. Flat-necked chameleons in general can grow up to 30 centimeters, so she's potentially still growing. But I mean, I put loads of crickets, like I put six in her pen today, and two of them are still in there now. Like one of the really big ones, which really creeps me out. And I would really like her to wake up and eat, but she's asleep now, so it's going to stay there until tomorrow. And the cage is not like 100% cricket proof. Like it'll keep her in it, but there's definitely some gaps that they can get out through, and I
Wait.
really hope they don't. Yeah, no, I can. I have had the locust on my face. I don't need a friggin' cricket as well.
You've practically done it.
Yeah, but not voluntarily.
Okay.
And definitely screaming when when the cricket fell, and my head torch would run out of battery when it fell. So I would normally like reflexes to jump for the head torch and turn it on so you can see what's
Yeah.
happening. Because I was really worried it was like a spite, like because we have quite venomous animals here. So I was worried it was
Yeah.
like, something that's gonna sting me.
Yeah.
And my head torch was out of battery, and so I had to like find my phone, and then it was an old Android where I had to download an app to get the torch. So I had to like find the app, open the app, put the torch on, all of that stuff. And then by then I realized it was a locust that was on the side of O'Mozzie net. I really wish I'd had Karen then, because then I would have been like, death by Karen, serves you right.
Yeah. Okay. Could have been
Huh?
worse. I guess you were lucky it was just a locust then. It could have been worse.
Yeah, definitely could have definitely been
Yeah.
worse. I'm really trying not to imagine all the other things it could have been though. But having her has definitely changed my perspective on like bugs and stuff. And I kind of feel a bit bad. Like I've never ever had like an emotional attachment to crickets or anything. Don't get me wrong, but I kind of feel a bit bad when I catch them. I'm like, I'm sealing your fate as dinner
Yeah.
for Karen.
Off to
Um, yeah, I feel really bad, but then I'm like, well, she's got to eat
yeah.
nature.
Nature. Yeah. Yeah. They're kind of insectivores. They need
Yeah,
insects. Yeah.
yeah. And also, there's loads of crickets and stuff here, so I'm not worried
Yeah.
about
Not
like
in
endangered species.
there.
Okay, cool. Someone's asked, when's Bugface coming back?
So I think it's within the next couple of weeks. So for this first season, we filmed 21 episodes. And at the moment, I think there's been about 14, 15 that have come out. And then we had a big gap because it was meant to just run through, but then with COVID and everything, they've spaced out a little bit. And then, so that's why they put Wild Bites in the middle. So now Wild Bites are just finished. I think Bugface should start coming back again for I think there's about 6 episodes left, so 6 more weeks of Bugface, and then that's season 1 done. Hopefully they pick up for another season. We get to put more bugs on people's faces, but I don't know for sure yet. But yeah, within the next couple of weeks,
Do you
I
know
think.
when do you know if there'll be a second season? Do you get like a heads up on that or
I should think
any
I'll get
idea?
ahead. I haven't got one yet. I don't. I don't know if the virus and pandemics affect anything. I know it's delayed things with season 1, but hopefully, if it's popular enough, I think they'll do another season. Hopefully, but yeah, we'll see.
You can like put the bug on the celeb's face with like a pair of tongs, socially distanced, meter long tongs
Yeah,
that you have. Yeah, I'm sure
yeah.
that would be really
We're
popular.
gonna- But this is the thing as well with all these like famous people I get to meet. Like obviously it's quite exciting, but my first interaction with them is putting a bug on their face, which isn't always like the most positive experience for them. So it doesn't put me in a good light. So it's a bit of a weird situation to be in, but yeah,
I'm sure they'll remember you for the rest of their lives though, because someone will bring up that bug
yeah,
in conversation at some point and they'll be like, I've had that on my face. And they'll
yeah. At least it's
always remember you.
yeah, yeah. Not sure that's a good thing or not, but
Take it as a good thing. um, okay, and then last question was around career advice. Have you got any advice for people looking to get into presenting or zoology and that kind of thing?
yeah, I mean, so zoology is a bit more general. There's loads of things you can do with zoology, really. If you want to go down the zoology route, really, you need a degree. So if you're in school at the moment, you need to get A levels, obviously, if you want a degree or the equivalent. So biology is super important. Definitely get biology if you can. But then the other sciences and things like that are helpful. And then I mean, you don't necessarily just have to do zoology. You could do like marine biology, conservation, anything sort of related. Um, then for presenting wise, it's a bit more tricky because there's not really a set route. So everyone I know presenter wise has done completely different things. They've found completely different paths into it. So really, it's finding your own path. But there are certain things you can do to um, help yourself out, I guess. So first and foremost, just keep making content. So for me, I've been slacking a bit recently, but I started off making a lot of content for things like Instagram, YouTube, and what's also important is to realize that when you first start out, it might not be very good. Like my first videos were awful. I won't lie. Like I've taken them off the internet because they weren't very good. So like be aware of that, but persevere. I think persevering is a biggie. Because if there's, say, 10 people in a room who want to be wildlife presenters, I guarantee in like 6 months' time there'll only be one left. Everyone else will give up because it's quite a hard career to achieve. So if you can be that one person left, then you're more likely to get it. And then on top of all that, just kind of, I guess, a more practical piece of advice is to watch the kind of shows you like. So I don't know whether that's something like Deadly 60 or other presenter-led stuff, and wait till the end credits and find out who produced it, and then just get in touch with them, like tell them who you are. If you've made some content, it puts you a step ahead because you can show them some physical thing of what you do. But yeah, just things like that really, and just I guess my biggest piece of advice is just keep at it because hopefully eventually you will make it. Which is
Yeah,
kind of
I think that's really good. Really good tips, though.
yeah. It's hard because there's not a specific thing you can tell someone to go and do. It is a case of finding your own route. But
Yeah.
that's also a way that you can achieve it through lots of different paths.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, we've had a couple of questions that have come through here. Matt said, "Do you have a favorite underwater bug?"
Ooh, that's a great question, Matt. I don't know if this counts. So it spends some of its time underwater. So like dragonfly nymphs will live underwater for up to 2 years, I think. And then once they
Oh,
emerge as
wow.
a full-grown, some species at least anyway, once they emerge as a full-grown adult dragonfly and damselflies, they only live a matter of weeks. So they predominantly spend a lot of time in the water. And on that note as well, there's a great damselfly fact I love. The common blue damselflies, because the nymphs live underwater, the females have to dive underwater to lay their eggs. And a lot of the time, the female is so exhausted from laying all those eggs, she just doesn't have the energy to re-emerge out of the water, so she would drown. So basically, what happens is the males will dive down and rescue her and put her out of the water. So that's a fact I like about damselflies.
Wow, that's
Kind of,
kind of cute.
yeah. I also really like diving. But yeah,
Like what, sorry?
diving beetles. I just think they're
Oh,
really
yeah.
cool. Yeah, I am often mistaken for what like one. Well, I don't often. One time I mistaken it for a turtle. Like they look like little turtles. Like obviously we don't really get turtles in England, so it was kind of a given that it wasn't a turtle. But they have like similar. Well, no, they're not similar, but at glance they look like turtles. I promise.
I'll take your word for it. I'll Google it after this.
No.
Someone's asked, do you have any role models? Have you had a chance to work with them?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't. I mean, I guess in some senses, people like Dick and Dom were role models that I've worked with. In the like a lot of the work I've done has been kids presenting, so they're for me they're probably my biggest role models in terms of kid presenting. Because at least for me growing up, they were the legends of kids presenting. So that was great to work with them. But in terms of the wildlife world, I guess I mean, David Attenborough's got to be up there, obviously. But for me, growing up, it was people like Steve Irwin, actually, which obviously, sadly, I won't get to work with him now. But he he was probably one of the biggest influences on TV wise that made me get into this because it was just so I was just so fascinated by it all, and you know his methods of doing things maybe wouldn't be done to that degree so much these days, but you know at the time it's captivating seeing someone wrestle an alligator or a crocodile, and then I also love Steve Backshall. I was a big fan of like Deadly 60 growing up and even now, to be honest. So yeah.
Good answers. All good answers. Okay, so people who are tuning in or tuned in, you can still submit your questions in the comments. We're going to move on to the quickfire questions now, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, go for it.
Um,
Ready.
So these questions, for people that haven't watched our Q&As before, this is just a quick series of questions to help us get to know our guest a little bit better. They're completely off topic, so yeah, just answer them as simply as you can, but no
Okay.
pressure. You can form full sentences. It doesn't have to be one word answers.
Okay. Right.
Okay, first question. Favorite ocean creature?
Beluga whales.
Oh, nice. Favorite day of the week?
Ooh, Saturday, probably. I don't know. Yeah, Saturday.
Nice. Plastic free eco product you can't live without.
Kind of. Reusable water bottle. I think it's the main one.
Favorite beach in the world?
Ooh, that's hard. I think maybe Agadir in Morocco. I used to go there a lot growing up, so it's got the nostalgia value for me. Yeah, I don't know if it's got an
Nice.
Agadir in Morocco. I don't know if the beach is a name, but probably has.
um, Last song you listened to?
I listened to a song called "Superheroes" by Stormzy, which was a good song.
Nice. Um, Dolphins or sharks?
Sharks, I think. Yeah, sharks, but I wouldn't say no to
Okay.
dolphins. Yeah, yeah,
Sharks are the best.
yeah, yeah. There's something more. I don't want to say more fascinating about sharks because I do love dolphins as well, but yeah, sharks are the best.
Dolphins get all the good press. Sharks get bad press. So you got to love an underdog.
Yeah, 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 definitely.
Favorite holiday?
Um, so I don't know if you could call it a holiday, but I was because I was there for sort of conservation stuff. But Kruger National Park in South Africa was really cool. It was my first time in sub-Saharan Africa, so like my first time seeing things like elephants and lions. So yeah, I was totally in my element there.
That is not far away from us. If you come and visit here, you can pop in there en route.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's right. It's right. Is it on the? It's next to the border, right?
Yeah, it's literally like our volunteers. We take them down to safari if they want for a week, literally in Krug Park. So it is a longish drive, but longish for Africa, long for people in England, but for Africa it's pretty short. It's about like 10 hours drive from here,
Okay,
which isn't too bad.
no,
Leave
it's
in the
not too.
morning and get there in the evening.
It's a very cool place. Like, you're lucky to be in a ten
Yeah,
hour drive away. I wish I was here.
yeah, yeah. Okay, would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to talk to animals?
Um, Part of me feels like I can already talk to animals, but I feel like I can't really. I just that's just like. So yeah, I think maybe talk to animals. Because it's. I mean, I don't know. It'd be nice to know what they're thinking, but then maybe they're not thinking very much at all. So I don't know. Because I would also like to be able to speak every language in the world, but no, speak to animals. Yeah, I'll go with that one.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
As a superpower, teleportation or breathing underwater?
Can I have both? Or do I have to pick?
You
um,
have to pick.
Teleportation. I think. Um, yeah, that's a hard one. I think yeah, teleportation because then I could just go anywhere whenever I wanted.
Yeah, also saves your carbon footprint with flights. So
Great. There we go. Eco-friendly answer.
there you go. What book would you take with you onto a desert island?
Uh, a book about how to survive on a desert. No, that's not the answer you want, is it? I feel like maybe the Harry Potter books. That's more than one book, but I've not actually read those yet, and I feel like I'd have plenty of time on this desert island. So yeah, Harry Potter, I think.
Okay, yeah, nice one. First thing you're going to do when things get back to normal?
Normal. Some sort of traveling, go abroad. I've not been abroad in a long time, so yeah, I don't know where, but just to escape England would be
You can
nice.
come here.
Yeah, go. You and Karen.
Yeah. I'm slowly going
Yeah.
crazy on my own here in a beach hut. I've been on my own for 6
Are
months. So welcome the
you,
company.
yeah.
Huh?
Are you completely alone?
Well, there's so two dive instructors here and a couple of other people, resort owners and stuff, but it's like seven of us in total. It's pretty quiet. We live in the bush, so it's like rural.
Okay.
Although I went to a shop the other day and we're in the shop and it was busy, but it was like quiet for UK standards, but busy for Mozambique standards. And it stressed me out. I realized that I now can't deal with people. I don't know what I'm going to do when I come back to the UK. I'm just going to like hyperventilate whenever I'm
Yeah,
in a crowd.
buffer period. People again.
Yeah, yeah. And then last question, why do you love the oceans?
I think it's the element of the unknown for me. So like there's parts of space we know more about than parts of our ocean, and that to me is like mind blowing. So like I guess I get yeah, it's the unknown. So like who would have thought there's a species of fish with like a light bulb on its head or something, or like a octopus the size of a boat. Like there's just some incredible things in the ocean, and we don't really know about them or get to see them. And that as well as just the things we know about. And there's so much more that we don't know about. So yeah, I'm kind of fascinated with the unknown of it all.
Yeah, definitely. Good answer. Cool. Well, we are pretty much out of time. We've got 3 minutes left. Are there any projects that you would like to tell our audience about, or anything coming up that you want them to be aware of?
Um, yeah, there's what I'm allowed to speak about. So there's some stuff coming up that I'm not allowed to talk about, but keep an eye out for that. But there's also things like you can check out like Wild Bites has just finished. So check out those. There's going to be obviously more bug faces, like I say. So yeah, let me know what you think to those. Just I guess you can follow me or whatever on socials if you want to keep up to date with what I'm doing. But yeah, that's about it really. I'm not really allowed to say too much about upcoming projects without getting into trouble. But there's going to hopefully be some cool stuff.
Yeah, no worries. For everyone watching, you can click on, I think it's your top left corner, might be top right, um, and you'll see you can follow both Love the Oceans and Yussef on Instagram. So click there and you'll be kept up to date with both of what we're up to. We will be back next week with another guest. And if you missed anything for this Q&A, this is going to be available on IGTV and our YouTube afterwards. So you can catch it there. There were some great materials covered and some great career advice, if you're looking to get into the wildlife presenting and zoology area of things. Cool. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been great.
Really appreciate you taking the time on a Thursday evening to chat to us.
No
And
worries.
hopefully we will see you out in Mozambique at some point.
Yeah, hopefully. Awesome.
Cool. Have a
Thanks a
great
lot.
evening.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.